A sketching series is our poster of an alpaca, or an alpaca poster, which utilizes a subject, some framework, and some typography. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the typography. I'm going to talk a little bit about style. We're also going to do a little bit of illustration style shading as well. We're a little limited on our colors. We're really only using 2 to 3 colors today. Feel free to use more colors on the outside or use different colors than I'm using. Speaking of the colors, let's talk about our materials for today. So first of all, I have paper. I have plenty of paper, just in case I make a mistake that I'm not okay with and I want to start over. If you have a sketchbook, this would be a good project to do in your sketchbook, so then you could do it again without feeling like you're wasting good paper. I have color pencils today. Today I only have brown and light brown or tan brown for my alpaca. Feel free to choose your choice colors. Alpacas come in all sorts of colors, mostly neutral tones, so they come in different shades of brown and cream and black. And then I also have green for my background, so choose whatever background color you might like. I also have, it's not listed in the materials, but I have 2 weights of felt marker. I have just the regular Sharpie, which is like a heavy weight, and then I have my brush pen, which I will use as my fine tip. So you don't need a brush pen, but you need some type of fine tip felt marker. I also have my pencil for the sketching. If you have a lighter weight pencil, please use that. I'm using a mechanical pencil so that it's dark enough for you to see it, but you should be sketching until you are inking or coloring. So we want light lines that we can erase because we will be erasing them at the end. I also have my eraser. I use a kneaded eraser, and when I go to erase my page, you'll see why I use it. It picks up the graphite or the lead off the paper instead of scraping your paper off. This is not for you, this is for me. I'm going to put my little notes on here. I ran out of scratch paper. And I also have somewhere to keep my pencils when I'm not using them. So let's go ahead and put them there. Today's lesson is only a half an hour lesson because we're going to do a pretty simple character that's symmetrical, so it's the same on both sides. And we're going to do a simple type of sans serif font at the bottom across a straight line, so you don't really need we don't really need to outline it too much. If you want to use a ruler for these straight lines, go ahead and pull out your ruler, but I'm going to freehand it. That's when I just use my hands. All right, let's get everything out of the way. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about your creative confidence. We talked about it in the last lesson when I showed you my series of sketches before I got to the final piece. And I want to share that with you again because it's nice to be reminded that we don't always get it right on the first try, so we have to forgive ourselves when we don't. It's a little bit of a view into the life of an illustrator or an artist because it's not always the first thing that we put out is our final masterpiece. So let's look at a review of what it took to get here. So this was the first alpaca I drew. It's cute. It's pretty close to the last one. But I wanted to make the picture more interesting. I hadn't decided to put the type here or the frame around that. So I just did that. And then next, I tried to mess around with the background. We were going to do some rays with the sun and a frame, just like the frame I did here. But I didn't really like that. I felt it would get too busy. We'll do another project with the rays around it another time. And then I started working with the framing and the typography, and I wanted to do it like a fence behind him, but it looks like he's in jail. So I got a very cute alpaca, but I thought that this one came out a lot better. So as you can see, I got a bunch of different versions. Here's one that really didn't work. I gave him some crooked teeth. He looks a little bit scary. So, and then also his head's curved. I tried to do something more interesting, but today's project's going to be fairly easy. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and get this alpaca out of the way. I'm going to cheat with you guys, and I'm going to put my old copy underneath here so that I can try to get as close to my original version as I can. So get your pencil out and get your sketching hand out. So we're going like this. We're not going like this. We're going like this. And let's go ahead and divide our page up and lay it out. So we're going to divide it once down the middle. You can't really see my lines. I'll try to get them a little bit darker. Go down the middle. See that line? And then I'm going to do another line. It's going to go across the middle that way. So I went across vertically and horizontally. You can see my center. So I'm going to put my subject's head above the center line. It's going to be like in the top third of the image. Normally, when you're laying out a page, you'll break it into thirds up and down, but we're doing it in half because it's simpler. So we're going to do it in the top third. So our alpaca's head is going to be up here, and its body's going to go through the center, and then its lower body is going to come down here. So we're going to start out by doing the frame around our edge. So very lightly, you're going to do about a whole like inch and a half in. You're going to make a rectangle. So you're going to start by going across. You're going to come down. You want your rectangle to be the center of your page, and go ahead and stop about 2 inches from the bottom. So as far as this line is from the top of the page, you want a greater distance between the bottom of the page and the bottom of the frame. So then you're going to go across and then come match yourself right down here. You see the rectangle I have? You see how it's closer to the top than it is on the bottom? You want to do something like that. But use your sketching hand, because you might want to erase these lines afterwards. Maybe you didn't get this line as high up as you wanted to, and you want to raise it up later. You're going to have to erase that. So you want to do a high line, light line. Hey Mom, thanks for joining me. Okay, so now that we have our frame, let's start with our alpaca. So for our alpaca, he has, I'm going to use my little guy. The alpaca, he's got a big old plush of his wool on the top of his head. So we're going to draw a circle for that part right there. And we want that circle to go over the top of our frame. The top of this rectangle is the top of our frame. And we want, and it's not a perfect circle, it's more like an oval or an ellipse. We want it like that. See how it overlaps our frame? You don't want it to go too high because you have to put his ears on here. So you're going to put it there. All right. Once you have the oval, you're going to do some little eyes for him, and they're going to be circles. So they're going to attach to the bottom of the oval, and they're going to be equal distance from the center because we're going to make this symmetrical. Remember, we're centering everything on this center line. Doesn't have to be perfect. Mine's not perfect. So that's where his eyes are going to go. Then we need to do the muzzle, and the muzzle is in the center of his face, and it's an oval that's going vertically. So the top of his head was a horizontal oval, and then his muzzle is a vertical oval right there. You should still be above this halfway mark if you're trying to figure out where it's all going to fit in. So remember, we're going to make his head in this space here, so you should be above there. All right, next we're going to do his big woolly cheeks. So we're going to do a couple more ovals. There's one cheek. This will all come together once we finish, but we're just building the body right now. There's the other cheek. So far we have the top of his wool, his woolly cheeks, we have his muzzle, we have his two eyes. So we did a circle here, then we did two eyes, then we did a muzzle, then we did some cheeks, we did some more cheeks. So let's do the wool underneath his muzzle. So let's just, this shape right here, just copy that down here. Now if you guys are noticing the way I'm using my hand, we're holding our pencil like chopsticks. instead of like you'd be writing with a pencil, because we're trying to make light lines, and this allows us more control over the pressure in the pencil. So if I wanted to take this curve and I just wanted to come out bigger like that, that's what you're going to do right there. We can go ahead and go up at the top and do some ears. We're going to do some curly texture over the ears so they don't have to be perfect. So if you just put 2 ears over up there, doesn't matter what they look like, that's just where the ears are going to go. All right, so next we're going to make his neck, and his neck is going to come down to about here. You're going to go from where the eyes are. You're going to, don't draw a line, but kind of follow your pencil down, and then when you get to the bottom of his neck, you can go like that, and that's one side of his neck, and then do the same thing on the other side. Doesn't have to be perfect. Mine's not perfect. You could go ahead and just make the line again, and we can erase that later. Don't worry about it. Or we can erase it now. However you feel. Do you need to erase it now, or do you need to erase it later? So that's his neck. We're going to bring his neck down almost to the edge of our frame, but we're not going to come all the way down. And then we're going to do his back, because his shoulders are down here, but his back is up here. So then we're just going to make a curved line there, and then a matching curved line over here. All right, so now we have the body fleshed out for our alpaca. So all we have to do now are the details. So his eyes are kind of freaking me out right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put his irises and his pupils in there. So alpacas have really big, like dark eyes. So I'm not gonna give him little tiny pupils. I'm gonna go really big with them. So I'm gonna go almost take up the whole eye where he barely has any whites in his eyes. And I can draw a little darker now. You notice how I've moved my hand closer to the front of the pencil, and that gives me more control with detail, and I can be more precise. So there, his eyes aren't freaking me out so much. I'm not going to color them in yet. So now we can add the texture to our alpaca. We're going to do a curly line. So like doing clouds. Oh wow, you really can't see that. So like doing clouds like that. If you want, you could do the curly Q line. That might get messed up when we ink it though. So stick with this kind of line. And we're just gonna go around everywhere that we put our shape. See, I'm gonna come in there because it's not gonna go all the way across. It's just gonna go to there. And then we're gonna go this cheek wool is gonna go so far, it's gonna go cover his eyes a little bit. And then we gotta do under his neck. We're not gonna go all the way to across. It's a style choice. We're just gonna go ahead and let it hint at the fact that it goes all the way across and not finish closing the entire object. We're gonna go, his wool goes in front of his ears, so we can go in front of his ears. And just keep continuing this textured line. Okay, we don't do it around his muzzle. His muzzle's going to be smooth. We are going to do above his eyes though. So we're going to come over this line with our textured line like that. We're going to give him a nose. I gave my original alpaca a cute little heart nose, so I'm going to do that again. What you could do to do the heart nose is go like this and then go like that over the top. And now he's got a cute little heart nose. We're going to bring a line straight down, do a curved line that way, and curved line that way. And I'm gonna give mine an open mouth, so I'm gonna go like this and do a little lip on it too. throw the symmetry off a little bit. See how it's crooked? It's crooked on purpose. And then close the muzzle shape right there. And you're going to keep this one up here too. All right. Let me define my eyes a little bit more. I really like them. I'm going to give them some eyebrows just because they don't have eyebrows. But doesn't it make it look cute? I'm going to make it look cute. So you're going to keep going with this fluffy, puffy texture line. Remember, I'm not going all the way across. I'm just stopping right about there. You're going to come all the way down his neck. It doesn't matter if you don't follow your line perfectly. And then his back. Oops, I made a mistake. And this side of his neck. And I'm going to mess with the symmetry again. I'm going to bring down one side longer than the other. So this one's going to come down to here. This one's only going to come to there. That's just a stylistic choice. Did like that. Okie dokie. And so now let me define my frame a little better. So the way this poster framing style works is that our subject is behind a frame and then goes in front of a frame. So the line for the frame, or the line for our rectangle, it won't go through our alpaca because it's behind it. So you'll just do the line across, skip the alpaca, go across. I just want to be able to see that better. And then this one goes all the way across. Just wanted to see it better, so I made it darker. Okay, next let's do our typography. So our typography, we're going to write the word alpaca. Unlike our Art Nouveau lesson where we used a serif font that had the little designs on the bottom. So if we have an, let's go ahead and pick an N. If we had an N, it would have little feet on the tops and the bottom. But our N is not going to have any feet. It's just going to be just the structure lines. And in fact, we're not going to use an N because our word is alpaca. And we're going to use all lowercase letters as a style choice. I wanted it to be more fun, so I went with lowercase letters. So we're going to put alpaca, which is 6 letters. So our page is already divided in half, so we just need to divide the halves into thirds. So we already have it divided in half, and then this is the other edge of our frame, I'm gonna say. Those are just lines for visuals so I can see how big to make it. And so then I'm going to divide this into thirds. And then I'm going to do an alignment lines. Like I said, if you need a ruler, go ahead and use a ruler, but I'm just making that line so that I make all my letters go across at the same level. So I'm going to put a lowercase a, put a lowercase l, put a lowercase p, put another lowercase a, and a lowercase c. I'm trying to make these as round as I can so that they look like they belong in the same family. And then another lowercase a. I should have done a pretty good job of making them similar. They're not perfect, but if I stand back, they look perfect enough. Sometimes things look better from far away. Sometimes you get too close for too long. So I have my typography, and I have my subject, and I have my frame. So let's go ahead and ink our project. First of all, are you happy with it? If you are, just go ahead and move on to the next step. If you're not happy with it, maybe still move on to the next step. But if you're really not happy with it, remember we brought plenty of paper so we can start over. You can rewind the video, you can watch it again. And I'd be happy if I could teach you in a better way if you left me some comments. Okay, so let's go ahead and start inking. So we're going to start with our finer tip felt marker or finer tip pen, and we're going to go ahead and just outline our final lines. So all of the woolly textured lines that we did, go ahead and outline all that. So this might take a while, but it'll be worth it. I hope everybody had a good weekend. At least the weather was nice over here in Vallejo. I'm very appreciative of the nice weather over here. Today's also a nice day. I'd take you outside and we'd film outside, but there's a lot of background noise. Remember, we're not going all the way across, so we're going to stop. Remember, don't cross our frame line because this part of our subject is behind the frame. Alright, I'm doing all the woolly parts first. I'm going to save his eyes for last because it's going to take some precision so that I don't over ink it so you can't see it. Oh, we forgot to do the wool on the ears. How about this guy? Let's give him non-woolly ears. He's kind of got hair like mine. Mine's nice and woolly on the top. Let's do his eyebrows. And I'm going to be pretty careful with the eyes. If you notice down here, the wool in front of his face goes in front of his eye, so I only do the circle up to there. And then I can go ahead and add some reflection lines. It's kind of just a little cartoon style. Color them in. You could do the eyes in any style you want, but you just want to put them over there. And his muzzle goes behind the wool. There we go. And his little heart-shaped nose I decided to go with. I decided his mouth. Oh, actually, let's give him some teeth. There we go. Isn't that cute? Oh my goodness, that's so cute. See what happens? Different versions, different conclusions come up. We decided not to give him woolly ears. All right, so we did his whole face and head. Now let's do our frame. It's okay if it's not perfect. Remember, when we go over the top, we're going behind the alpaca so we don't continue. We come out on the other side. Feel free to move your paper around so it's most comfortable for you. See how I used my whole arm to make that line? It's a little trick, helps you make straighter lines, because if you're going like this, you're making this motion, but if you're pulling your whole arm, then you're able to stay more straight. So we're going to do the same thing for down here. Now on our letters, we made all those guidelines, but the only thing we're going to outline is the letters themselves. So I'm going to come over here. And in fact, if you want, you can go right ahead and switch markers. Go ahead and put away your fine tip. Remember, you should have some paper underneath if you're using the felt markers. I forget to always remind you of that. So we got our A. We're using the thicker marker because we want our A to be really bold. Even if you have to go over it twice, try to make it nice and thick. So my L, I'm going to go ahead and make 2 lines. My P, just got to make sure it's nice and thick. And go in there, thicken it up. Well, that one came out tiny. We got that. And then we're also going to take our felt marker and we're going to go around the whole outside of our subject. So we're not going to go inside. We're just going to stay on the outside lines. So you just follow me around. We're just going to go over the outside of those lines. And this is just a style choice. It's going to make our character pop. It's also going to be very graphic. This would be a really good design to screen print, and I might be doing a screen printing workshop if I could figure out how to do it virtually. I'd be happy to do it virtually. You notice I didn't go in, we're just going around the outside. I'm going to stop there. And we're going to do this other side. I'm going to move this down. I hope you have paper underneath your paper, because otherwise you're going to ruin a table. This guy would make a really cute sticker. And like I said, screen print, we put them on a t-shirt. They look pretty cool on a t-shirt. Well, anyway, save this drawing if I decide to do a virtual screen printing project. He would be cool. Alright guys, so at this point, we're done with our inking. It's time to break out our eraser and be gentle with our paper and erase all of our pencil lines, because everything we want, we did in the felt marker. So we can erase everything else. We're not going to do our shading until we have already put down our color. So erase, it's therapeutic. Don't worry if you don't get rid of all the pencil lines. If you use color, your color will cover it up. If you drew too dark, take it as a lesson that you need to work on your sketching and drawing lighter lines. You might be using too heavy of a leaded pencil, so maybe try a lighter pencil lead. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with my brown, and I'm going to lightly fill in the alpaca everywhere but the muzzle. So that includes the ears. Now I said lightly because we're going to do some shading with the brown, so we're going to color darker in some areas. So we're going to start with a light color. I'm also trying to conserve color pencils because I'm going through them. And the craft stores aren't open. And the art stores aren't open. Now I'm kind of holding my hands this way because my color pencil is worn down and I didn't sharpen it. And this is where I'm getting the smoothest coloring texture. Don't you guys also notice, but I'm trying to go in the same direction over the whole piece. Kind of eliminates the look of your, what we would call brush strokes with paint. Doesn't look very dark on the camera, but I can see that it's brown. How about I'll go in one more time, make it a little bit darker. Oh, I need to sharpen. You guys keep coloring in, I'm going to sharpen my pencil. I sharpen my pencil with a X-Acto knife. Okay, I'm back. Let's go in here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to very lightly, a little bit darker than this, but we're going to put in our shadow. So in order to understand shading, just jumping right into it, you have to know where the light is coming from. So the light on our subject is right in front of his face. So what would happen, because our subject is round, he's a curvy object, is the light would land in the center and then the edges would be darker. So we're going to make the edges darker and then the center is going to stay light. Also, if there's any part of his face or body that fall underneath another part of his body, like his, what I'm going to call his bangs up here, they fall over and in front of the space between his eyes. So that's going to be very dark. His woolly cheeks fall over his neck and chin, so it's going to be darker underneath there. And his neck falls underneath his chin, so it's going to be darker under there. And then under his ears is going to be darker too. So we're going to kind of make these reference lines for ourselves. It doesn't matter if they still show with our finished piece, it just becomes part of the style. So let's go ahead and let's start with his neck. So the center of his neck is going to be lighter, and so we're going to use this same type of line, and we're just gonna come down. And it could be a pretty organic line. It doesn't have to be perfect, but then we're going to come in there. And so his neck is in front of his body, so we're going to come right here. So it's going to be darker back here and darker there. We're going to come across and do the same thing on the other side. It's going to meet up there, and then the same thing over here. We're going to mimic, let's see, we're going to mimic this line here and come underneath the neck. We're going to mimic that line there and that line there. Come under there. We're going to mimic this line here and this woolly line there. And then we're going to do the same to the top, so it's going to be light in the middle and then darker all the way around the outside. So we're going to mimic the lines that the shadow is falling on. So you could basically just go like that. And so we're going to be darker back here and lighter in the center. So go ahead and in those areas that run up against their outer lines, go ahead and color those a little bit darker than the rest. Try to be smooth about it. Try not to go super duper dark so that the transition is disrupted. We're going to do the inside of his ears. Oh, we didn't even color that ear. So all this space down here will be darker because his bangs are in front of it, his muscles in front of it. So that gets to be darker. That hole, that's probably the darkest part of him, other than his eyes and his nose, because that's way back there. So this area would be even darker than this area. And go ahead and do his cheeks. And underneath his cheeks would be even darker than the underside of his cheeks. Underneath his cheeks would be even darker. And it'll lighten it up as it gets more into the light. Same thing right here. Gonna smooth that out. All right, so let's do underneath his chin, and the side of his neck. Now I'm pressing a little bit harder because I want to get that value. And I have my reference lines that I made, so I know how far to go. I'm going to make it extra dark back here where something is in front of it. Same thing in these corners, usually in the corners. And you see how I've been building up and building up? What do you think about that? What kind of effect did we get? Is that something, is that an effect or a style that you like? All right, so next we're gonna do our background. Oh no, we gotta do the muzzle. All right, get your light brown, do the muzzle, but don't do the teeth. We're gonna leave the teeth white. And you wanna go fairly light. You could always make it darker. You can't make it lighter. And try to do an even tone, even value across the whole space. Like that. And we're going to take our green, which I probably also have to sharpen, and we're going to color our background. Try to make it even, guys. Holding it like chopsticks. We're not carving here, we're coloring. I only chose green because it's my favorite color. I also, when I see alpacas here in Vallejo, they're in fields, so there's lots of green. In fact, maybe I'll go the extra step and put some oxales in the background if I have my yellow next to me. If any adults or parents are out there and you think I should put this design on a t-shirt, I'll take off the words alpaca and just put the alpaca on there. Let me know if that would be a cool idea. I'll do it for my screen printing class. If you are interested in me doing a silk screening workshop or screen printing workshop, It's the DIY method. All you need is some mesh fabric, which now might not be the best time to have to go out and buy fabric, or supplies for that matter, but an embroidery hoop and 2 different types of emulsion fluid. So maybe now is not a good time. I'm just kind of bringing the value up back there. It looks more even. I went in this direction so that it mimics grass. It's growing up and down. And there we go. Hey Mom, thanks for sticking around the whole show. Alright guys. So if you stuck in there with me, you went along, you did a little bit of sketching, you did a little bit of typography, you did some inking, you messed around with some different style techniques, you even did some shading to give your alpaca figure some form. He looks very plushy and round right now. I wanted to go ahead and show you guys how things come out differently if you try them again, so don't be afraid to try them again. Here was our first alpaca. Well, not even the first one, remember? This is the one that we started with the lesson. This is the one that we finished with. Oh my goodness, do you see what just happened there? Did we just get better in a half an hour? We did, and I bet you will too. So don't be afraid to do the lessons one more time, to try a different style out. You're going to impress yourself, and you should already be proud of yourself because you're trying. I appreciate everybody who participates, who watches my videos or shares my videos. This is really helping me get through everything right now, and I appreciate you very much. Guys, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday. Bye.